Thank you for joining us at eNCA, and thank you for your time. We're getting reaction, of course, around these key reforms that the government says it's going to take in dealing with the state capture report. Ongama gave us his take, which seemed to be somewhat positive. Let's hear what you have to say and your thoughts around what the president has to say.
Good evening, and thanks for the opportunity, and good evening to the listeners who are still awake after the what was it, nearly an hour that the president was busy with his address to the nation. I'm afraid I'm left spectacularly underwhelmed by what the president has given us tonight. More of his usual dither and kick the can down the road and pass the buck and just not get to grips with what needs to be dealt with. I listened very carefully, and I did not hear the words cadre deployment in the public administration and in the state-owned enterprises mentioned once by the president. Now, cadre deployment is illegal and unconstitutional and has been ever since we had a constitution. It has been found to be illegal and unconstitutional in the Eastern Cape High Court, and the government, the ANC, nobody appealed that decision, which remains a binding decision. So while the president is right to mouth generalities about recommendations of a commission of inquiry not being binding, if the recommendation of the commission refers to a situation that has already been settled law for years, then one would expect that an accountable and responsive president would say, I've heard what the commission says. I recognize that cadre deployment is illegal and unconstitutional, and I am instructing my government to end cadre deployment. We heard not a word about that. Then the president, I think he might be getting badly advised in relation to the reform of the criminal justice administration. The recipe, the rules, the directives of the highest court in the land are all there for anybody to see. The Constitutional Court has dealt with this issue not once but twice, and the government persists in under-implementing the requirements that have been set out by the courts in terms that actually bind the government. So when the president says, as he did this evening, that he wants to turn the ID, which is an invention of a proclamation that he made and could unmake overnight if he wanted to, he wants to turn them into a permanent unit or institution inside the NPA, then he has not understood the criteria, not been advised about, the criteria that apply if you want to have anti-corruption machinery of state that complies with the international obligations of South Africa under the United Nations Convention Against Corruption and other instruments with the AU and SADC, then I'm afraid we're on a hiding to nothing. What he's talking about is recreating the Scorpions. Well, we all know what happened to the Scorpions. They got closed down by the first bad president who came along.
But aren't the Hawks actually making ground, given the 4,000 convictions that the president mentions there, and even the NPA ID, given the 8.6 billion
you've been taken in on that one. You've been taken in on that one. The 4,500 convictions relate to all priority crimes. The Hawks are particularly bad at dealing with serious corruption, and it's not their fault. It's the structure and the operational environment of the Hawks that makes it impossible for them to get on top of serious corruption. That number 4,500 was thrown in there, showing their entire workload, which covers all sorts of things like kidnapping and IDB and poaching and all manner of priority crimes. They are not good at dealing with corruption, and they never will be. And nobody is really seriously suggesting that they will be, because the plan, as I understand the president, is to turn the investigating directorate of the NPA, with the temporary unit he's created there, into a permanent unit. Now, that isn't what the NEC of the ANC asked him for in August 2020, and it isn't what the law requires, because of the inability of such an institution to be secure in its tenure of office and able to operate independently, which is what is required by the law. So really, I'm more than underwhelmed by what the president has said. He's also very weak on whistleblowing. He passes the buck to the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice has said that it won't be ready with any new legislation around this until next year sometime, earliest March. The president has it within his power to look after whistleblowers properly tomorrow. He could, if he wanted to, create an informal ombud structure. He's been asked to do it, and he might as well not even have heard about it. I think I shall have to write to the Chief Justice tomorrow and ask him to recruit retired judges who are prepared to be the ombud, because that is a quick and effective way of blocking the hole in the system. And the president is right. The whistleblowers are vital to getting on top of state capture and serious criminality of all kinds.
Advocate Paul Hoffman, I must thank you for your time. We're running out of time in the short. More than underwhelmed is Accountability Now Director, Advocate Paul Hoffman.